Hey y'all, it's your girl Coach Kinsley. Today we're going to talk about eccentric training.
Eccentric training. I know training means training, and I know E is E and centric is centric. But put those words together for me and give it real meaning, Coach.
Let's find meaning.
It's Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley. I'm producer Mike, former client of Coach Kinsley's, senior editor for the podcast, who pushes through every set until I hear
3, 2, 1, let's go! Remember to always consult your physician before starting any nutrition or fitness regimen. Eccentric in regards to training is referring to direction. So when you say eccentric training, you would be focusing on the motion, the part of the movement that you're going down. When you're stepping up on a step, that's your concentric. And then eccentric is when you're stepping down. Or when you're doing chest press. When you push the weights away, that's your concentric. And then when the weights are coming back towards you, that's your eccentric. So eccentric is going to be the way down when training.
Okay, Coach. So I think I remember you having me do that as a way to keep my muscle under tension in each rep. And so I do remember what eccentric, well, I know, I think I know what the motion is. Don't remember that it was called eccentric. So I'm glad I'm able to put a name with a face, or at least a motion now. But if I recall, that helps me keep more time under tension and help build muscle. Is that sort of close to what it's supposed to do, or is there more to it?
That's one part of eccentric training. So what you and I did was slow eccentric training, and that's where you would go slow on the way down and fast on the way up. You and I would be doing those slow reps between 5 seconds or 3 seconds. So we would count on the way down. And that is indeed a great way to build muscle, especially for counteracting age-related muscle mass, injury prevention, and injury rehabilitation.
Yeah, I didn't know if you knew this, Coach, when we were training, but that weight was kind of heavy, so it was a little harder to do. um, was that the point to make it a little harder to do, to build a little tension? Because you're counting. I'm like, you're counting. This is heavy, but I guess that's the point, huh?
Yeah, so we were training lengthened muscles and still going heavy and extending the time under tension. So we can use a lighter weight but make it harder by going slow on the way down or doing slow eccentric training.
Is by picking the heavier weight, me trying to increase strength, or if I want to increase the size of my bicep, one building strength versus one building for size.
I want to say both. So there is definitely room in your training for both, for all types of athletes. Like I mentioned, slow eccentric training is going to be best for counteracting age-related muscle loss, injury prevention, and injury rehabilitation, but you're only as strong as your range of motion you train in. Eccentric means direction. That means the way down. Eccentric does not mean tempo. So there is slow eccentric training as well as fast eccentric training. It's referring to direction.
A fast eccentric movement would be me just sort of cheating the movement, but you're saying there's a quicker tempo to do it and still get the benefit.
Right, it's going to be different, but both would be considered eccentric training when you are focusing on training lengthened muscles. So that's the eccentric part of the movement when you are lengthening your muscle.
Okay, you've said that a couple of times now, Coach. Explain to me what lengthening my muscle means. What am I doing when I lengthen my muscle?
When you are lengthening your muscle, it's like, for example, when you go to touch your toes, you feel that stretch through the back of your leg, also known as the hamstring. That is going to be lengthening your muscles. So when we do kind of a toe touch in Romanian deadlifts, for example, and add weight to it, we are training lengthened muscles. So you are going to get hypertrophy, you are going to get muscle gain in the longitudinal direction because you are training a lengthened muscle. Does that make sense?
It does, because I am, after many, many years of not being able to touch my toes, which is sort of a simple quality of life thing, it's not a problem for me now. Maybe because I've been training, legs and hinge and squats and RDLs, and now I haven't done Bulgarian squats yet. It's coming, I'm assuming. I can do it without even thinking about it now. And that's a new quality of life, non scale victory for me, is to be able to easily reach down, touch my toes, touch the ground, whatever. And I guess that's from lengthening the muscle during workouts.
Yes, and that is one of the great benefits of eccentric training, is it really helps us to keep our full range of motion. And that's a big concept behind eccentric training, is training the full range.
Yeah, as an older client, I am definitely benefiting from that, and it's just a surprise. Even now when I'm stretching after a workout, it's just a surprise. I used to struggle to get down there and, I don't have to force myself to do. I just do it. It's just something I do, and it's just a great, non-scale victory for me to be able to do that without even thinking.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like you said, that's some quality of life stuff.
Okay, that's pretty sneaky, coach, to sneak in an extra benefit that I didn't even know about when I thought I was just moving a heavy weight slow because coach told me to. And there was more than just strength. It was, range of motion, quality of life. That's all stuff that I, am really focused on now. So how does that actually tie in together?
Well, you're able to do what you train for. Short and simple. So you trained to be able to touch your toes when we were doing Romanian deadlifts and just straight up suitcase deadlifts, picking things up off the ground in a way where your hips were elevated and therefore you were getting that stretch, training lengthened muscles. And then other quality of life stuff, being able to get up on the ground and then back down, those are just burpees. So you train for what you want and you get good at what you train.
Huh. Well, that's pretty sneaky, coach. Pretty sneaky. Getting in resistance training with range of motion, with quality of life stuff. Training is amazing, and having a personal trainer that knows what they're doing, the benefits go way beyond just being able to lift a certain weight or being able to do a certain movement. It's so much more than that.
Everyone should have a personal trainer.
A personal trainer who knows what they're doing. Let me throw that in there because I've had personal trainers who were just looking to get a V cut in my back. Like, what is that? What is that?
So, quick recap. Eccentric training is referring to direction, referring to on the way down when you are training. It's focused on training lengthened muscles, and you can do this fast or you can do it slow. You can do fast eccentric training, you can do slow eccentric training. Now, a big focus of this eccentric training, no matter the pace, is to work full range of motion to train lengthened muscles. And I really like this concept, which is why I do a lot of this in my own routines. You're only as strong as the range of motion you train in. So it's really beneficial to train the full range. Not only get stronger in the full range, but to extend it or maintain it as we start to get older. Now, this is not to say that there isn't room for other ranges, though. This is just to say that you should always make space for full range. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm I'm all ears. I'm waiting to figure out what other places I can work on training, other ranges of motion that I can pick up.
So I would suggest train full range of motion most often, and if you find a weak spot, get better at it. For example, there are partial reps and pause reps that can help you with the top part or the bottom part of the motion. So a good example of partial reps is for when you are doing like a chest fly. So you're lying on your back or either on the ground or a bench, your palms face each other, and then you're working against gravity. So you're going to open up your chest with a soft bend in the elbow, and then rather than going all the way out so your chest is completely flexed and lengthened, then you'll only go halfway and come back up. So if finishing out that rep is your weak spot, then it's really great to train those partial reps. And then a very common place to train the bottom of the rep, getting out of that direction, is pause squats. So that's where you throw weight either in the front or the back, whatever kind of squat you're doing. And then you'll go down into your squat, hips are back and down, bend the knees, feet are flat. And then at the bottom, at your lowest point in your squat, you hold it for 3 to 5 seconds before powering up. And that's if you're having trouble between getting a little heavier and staying where you're at. Doing pause squats is a great way to make sure you're able to get out from under the bar before you go heavier. Because that's usually where people will struggle in their squat, is changing directions. So those would be more training partial reps, focusing on different parts of that full range. And it's going to help that full range when you strengthen where you're specifically weak, of course.
If we were in the same room, coach, you would see me with my hand raised. Squats have always been difficult for me, and over the years, as I've trained them, I've gotten better at them. Certainly, it was a balance thing. Certainly, it was a hinge thing. So, hearing about pause squats, which is difficult to say quickly, pause squats is something that I could really think benefit that weakness in my exercise there as I, look to get heavier. I don't train bulking season and cutting season, but I just train to generally get a little stronger in my old age. So yeah, that would definitely help. So that's really interesting because I have always struggled with squats, and I think I probably got heavier before I got the form better. So that'll definitely help. That's a good pointer. And on that note, coach, why don't you hit us with the highlights?
I got you. The highlights. So, eccentric training is referring to direction on the way down. You can do slow eccentric training or fast eccentric training. Both of these would be focusing on training lengthened muscles in their full range of motion. Eccentric slow training is best for counteracting age related muscle loss, injury prevention, and injury rehabilitation. And the last point, you are only as strong as the range of motion you train in. So train full range of motion, but there is definitely space for partial reps and pause sets for the places you struggle in that full range. Thank you so much for joining us today on Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley. The fun doesn't need to stop here. Email me at coach@coachkinsley.com. You can check out my webpage, coachkinsley.com, and also find me on Instagram at, you guessed it, Coach Kinsley. Your girl. See you next week. Fitness Fix with Coach Kinsley is a production of Greyhawk Enterprise, LLC.